Hello everybody and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Naya Chung and I also go by Legally Naya, and typically I give a lot of law student tips. I record my life at law school, I do a lot of vlogs and just showing my experience as a law student. But right now I am focusing on a segment where I give you pre-law students advice because I really want to help encourage people to get into the field, but not even that, make it easier. So today I'll be giving you the requirements of how to get into law school and also how to be a competitive law school applicant. So stay tuned. First, let's go over the requirements because without the requirements, you can't even get into law school. And that means that you need to have a bachelor's degree, you need to have a good GPA, you need to take the LSAT, you need to have 3 to 4 letters of recommendation, and you're going to need to have a personal statement as well as a resume. Now, the resume is really important as well as a good LSAT score and GPA, but we're going to discuss that deeper into this video. And instead of taking the LSAT, some people take the GRE, which is a graduate record examination. Now, I still recommend that you really try to take the LSAT more because that's standard of law school. But if you just can't get over that hump of the LSAT, maybe try to take the GRE instead. Now, let's first begin with what kind of GPA should you have when applying for law school? And I will say that you should at least have a 3.4. And don't worry if you don't, but I'm just trying to give you guys something to aim for. And of course, always aim higher. The reason why I don't say 3.0, 3.1, 3.2 is because in law school, everybody's competitive. Everybody applying is competitive. Everybody applying is already very smart, already very competitive. Probably the lower GPAs will be the 3.0s instead of when you're applying to undergrad and a 3.0 is okay. Instead, when you're applying to law school, you're in a field of competition. So I would make sure to have a 3.4, anything above a 3.0, and I would just aim for higher always, but it's okay if you don't because depending on what other factors you have when applying, you will be okay. But just to give everyone something to aim for, please try to apply to law school with a 3.4 GPA. Remember, you're going against sharks and the smartest of the smartest, the best of the best, the competitive of the competitive, the real academic weapons. So aim for a 3.4. Next, like I mentioned, you need a bachelor's degree. But everybody's favorite question is, what major do you need to be? What X, Y, Z? And truthfully, it does not matter what major you want to be to go to law school. There's people who have applied to law school and they were a humanities major. They were an English major. They were a math major. They were a business major. And honestly, sometimes I feel like that could make you an expert when you're in class and you have a strong background in something that wasn't a direct pre-law track, because now you come with different information, deeper insight, deeper understanding. So to apply to law school, it does not matter what major you were. So major in something that you know you actually enjoy, something that can give you a boost, something that can help increase your GPA. Or if you really know that you want to be a lawyer, you know that from day one, I highly recommend that you go into legal studies or political science or even become an English major, because a lot of things in law school is writing papers, reading, and the more comfortable you are writing, the better it will be for you. And a lot of people always talk about more of like legal studies and political science, but I really think being an English major can have more, if not a lot of benefits, because that's going to be you practicing as an attorney. Writing. Yeah. And then in addition, for example, there's a lot of different fields in the law. So if you do want to be an entertainment attorney, if you do want to be a business attorney, you having a business degree, you can understand the operations of a business more. You can understand the music industry more. You can understand way more different things that maybe a traditional lawyer who chose to go into political science or legal studies can talk about. But at the same time, understand that by being a legal studies major, I was a legal studies major and I don't regret it because I got to become accustomed to the way law school would be. We had to do assignments that were about the blue book, and I feel like I got insight into law school, but of course it's not law school at all. It just gives you a little taste. Like I got to take military law, I got to take adoption law, I got to take law and legal systems, I got to take legal research and writing, which is a law school course. So if you do legal studies, just know that you are getting more insight into the law school field, but majoring in anything else can maybe give you a boost and insight of a specialization of what you want to do. And I just want to say that if you want to become a patent attorney, then you need to major in the math and sciences, because to become a patent attorney, you must have prereqs that involve like physics, biology, things along that route. So do your research. A lot of people don't know that until they get to law school, but just know that if you do major in something that's more our women, gender studies, African American studies, things like that, sociology, psychology, there's nothing wrong with that. Just know that when you get to law school, it's going to be a whole different environment, but you could have deeper insight. So weigh your options. I feel like they're both good. And honestly, I don't know. I feel like they're both equally good. Just think about your personal statement and think about how you're going to tie it together to why you want to go to law school with your major, and just keep that in your mind. Next, let's talk about letters of recommendation. When you apply to law school, you need to have like 2 to 3 letters. But the reason why I say 3 to 4 is because you just want to have a safety net, a catch-all of all people. I made sure that I had 4 because some schools required 3, some schools only required 2, some schools allowed you to add more. And I just kind of wanted to make sure that I covered all my bases regardless of what school I was going to. And how I got letters of recommendation was I got really close to some of my professors. Recommendation letters that you should be getting if you know you want to go to law school should apply to professors, attorneys in the field, people that you've interned with, things like that. That way, you know, they can see that you've been committed to wanting to be a law student. So even if you major in something like psychology, but you know you want to be a lawyer, go intern still, go into the legal field, become a law clerk. Make sure that you are aligning it to when you apply. That way it looks like you actually wanted to become a lawyer despite anything. So yeah, you want letters of recommendations from professors, from people in the legal field, maybe from somebody in the political field, anything kind of law related, maybe volunteering. A lot of schools do public interest programs, giving back. So maybe if you volunteer and you get a letter of recommendation from them, that will look good too. But just keep in mind, you want to show that you are a leader, that you love the law, and that you actually are interested in pursuing this career. So don't forget, get your letters of recommendations, or even get one from your employer who talks about how highly you are at work. But again, you still want it to kind of be law related or a position of leadership or giving back. Next, when you apply to law school, you're going to have to submit a resume, and your resume is basically who are you and what did you do while you were in undergrad. Now, this is where a lot of people might not have a lot of things. This might be where people do have a lot of things. And I feel like by having a good resume, you can save yourself from a decent GPA or an okay LSAT score, because this shows everything you did while you were in undergrad. And I highly recommend that if you have not, you take on a leadership position in some organization. That way you can show that you are a leader. I highly recommend that you volunteer. That way it can show that you give back to your community. I highly recommend that you take on an internship. That if you like the political space, you were in a political internship. I highly recommend that you worked, that you interned, that you were in a pre-law club, that you formed a club, that you were a leader in a club, and that you were in your community. That way they can know what kind of person you are, and that even though you might have had a 3.0 GPA, look at everything else that you did. Or even though you have a 3.2, look at your resume, look at your LSAT score, and it really could just balance itself out. That's why I say it's really dependent on a lot of factors, but if you really want to make sure you have an easy way into the door, you got to make sure that you're at least attacking and hitting all your bases. So yes, on your resume, make sure that you're a very involved student. And on top of it, start recording the dates of how long you were in that leadership position, because they want to know. Make sure you know how long you volunteered for. Make sure you know how long you were in a work setting for, because all that needs to go on paper. And make sure that your letter of recommendations are from people who would be respected and from people who can really vouch for you as a person, to your character, and to your hard work and your work ethic and your academic performance. Next, something that is very important, and probably the most important thing that you should aim for, is a high LSAT score. I know people who had a high LSAT score but a low GPA and okay everything else, but that LSAT score got them straight through the door. If you know that you are not the best person academically, XYZ, you didn't have time to do everything, even though you should do some things on that list, hit your LSAT, okay? The LSAT to me is really like an SAT if you haven't started studying for it yet. One of it is like passages, and then you answer questions based on that passage, and then that's one section. Another one is like small paragraphs, and then you kind of answer that paragraph's question, and it's like reading comprehension. A lot of it is reading comprehension. They took away logic games. You guys don't have to worry about that. It was something that a lot of people struggled with, but that's gone. Now it's just 2 logical reasoning sections and 1 reading comprehension section. And the biggest way to overcome the LSAT is to learn how to strategically take it, not just learn the material. But I took a course with Kaplan, and they taught us how to recognize questions, how to answer questions fast, how to know what the LSAT is looking for, and how to be a strategic test taker. And I think that's why a lot of people don't do as good, because they're not learning the strategy of the LSAT. They're just taking it and practicing. But learn the strategy. I recommend that you teach yourself, or that you, if you can afford to, you could take a class, and that you watch videos that teach you strategies on how to take the LSAT. But I also think that I just had an amazing professor that was my teacher too. So far find what will work for you. Figure out what's the new trend, because I took the previous LSAT. I can't really speak on the new one. I just took those sections already, but I can't tell you how they changed the questions because I no longer am exposed to whatever version this is. But just know that it's more about strategy than understanding the questions. Of course, you need to understand, but you need to know how to strategically take the LSAT and invest in your LSAT, guys. A good LSAT score can give you a scholarship. Law school is expensive. It can get you a partial scholarship and get you a full scholarship. So invest in that seriously, take it seriously, and do practice exams, because that can get you through the door even when you don't have every other qualification. Prioritize, get a good LSAT score, and take it seriously. But I think a number you should aim for is a 160 and make that your goal, because I feel like you would at least get into schools with that score. You won't have to have anxiety with that score. And even if you get like a 159, a 158, a 157, I feel like you can get into some schools. No, it won't be the top tier law school, but if you're just looking to get in, you can get in. But a 160 can have you dipping from kind of both places, depending on if your resume and everything else can get you further in a door. So aim for 160. According to this, top tier law school, a T14 law school, the more realistic LSAT score would be a 173 to 180. For a mid-tier law school, a 160 to 170. To a lower tier law school, a 150 to 160. And then for the lower law schools, a law school just to get into, a 145 to a 150. Although, guys, like I've been saying, don't go based on these numbers exactly, because at the end of the day, your resume, your GPA, what leadership roles you had, who you interned for, can get you through the door. Whatever school you want to go to, actually go to that school and look at the requirements, and that way you could specifically aim for that school. But this is just me trying to give some direction in the murky waters. So yeah, hope that helps. And that is basically all my tips for somebody who wants to be a strong applicant when applying for law school. Of course, always aim for the highest LSAT score. Really, really invest when it's time to take your LSAT. Remember, it's about understanding, but also strategy. Remember that law schools want to see your resume. They want to know who you were as a student. What did you do? They also want to see that you volunteered, that you have good recommendations, that you have good character, and that you are not just a student, but you are a well-rounded person. Don't forget to aim for a good GPA at 3.4 or 3.5. Don't forget that it does not matter what degree you majored in as long as you have a good GPA. So maybe major in something you actually enjoy. But if you want to be closer to the pre-law track, political science if you're really interested in the political aspect, legal studies if you really want to know how to be a soon-to-be lawyer. Remember that a good LSAT score can get you through the door even if you have a lower GPA, but just also know that maybe if you have a decent LSAT score but you have everything else accomplished, maybe you can get through the door. I can't tell you for real, I'm not the admissions people, but look at schools that you want to go to and see what their qualifications are. That way you can know that you're hitting it. Another tip that I want to tell you guys as future lawyers, as future law students, is to enjoy reading, to train yourself to read more now. Maybe read articles, maybe keep up with the news, maybe just do little things to keep you informed on what's going on life events, on what's going on in politics. Just reading, because in law school it is very reading heavy. You could read 200 pages in a week. Yes. So train your mind to read more, train your mind to sit down, train your mind to have discipline. If you are in undergrad right now, train yourself to build discipline, to take your homework seriously. Just take it as pre-sign up for law school. You also want to improve your writing skills and your grammar skills. And if no one ever told you, when you get to law school, character matters. Dishonesty, cheating, fraud, anything like that is not tolerated. It's not accepted. Please do not do anything you will regret in undergrad that you have to explain for. Even things like criminal records, XYZ. Some people have been admitted to the bar with a criminal record, but keep in mind that you want to have a clean slate, because you might be called to the bar to explain why did you cheat in undergrad, to explain why did you steal when you were 23, to explain XYZ, and you just don't want to risk not being able to become a lawyer based on something you did when you were young. But not even that, if you have done something wrong, maybe that make you a better lawyer, and you could put that in your personal statement, and you could be honest, and you could tell them, I was this person and now I walk the straight path. And so yeah, just make sure that you know, and you keep in mind that what you do, even if you're young, can impact you when you go to law school and when it's time to explain your actions. But they always tell you to be accountable is the best way, because character and fitness is a part of becoming an attorney, as well as you taking something called the MPRE, and then you'll have to take the bar exam. So that's 3 things to look forward to know that's coming. And yes, so thank you guys all for watching. I'm just trying to make you guys be good noodles starting now. And yeah, if you took any gap between undergrad and applying for law school, explain that in your resume, explain that in your personal statement, make it all make sense so that they know that you were doing things, your life explanations, whatever it was. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. watching. Let's get this video to 100 likes. I believe that you can get into law school. This is how to become a competitive applicant. Watch some of my videos to see my journey as a law student to be ready for law school. I give very realistic taste of law school. Realistic. I do reality. I don't romanticize it, although I do love it, but I show the truth of it. So watch some of my law school vlogs, tap into some of my law content, and watch my law student tips once you get to where you need to be. But anyways, guys, let's get this video to 100 likes. Thank you so much for watching, and I believe in you, and you will become an attorney. We also need some future Gen Z, Gen Alpha politicians. So if you're interested in politics just a little bit, please, I'm begging you, get into politics. We need you. Thank you guys so much for watching. You can do it.